things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Hello. Hello. This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live worldwide from a secret mountain cave hidden high up in the beautifully snow-covered peaks of the Idaho mountains. We're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen, is quite a special episode for me. I've got a very special friend of mine joining me, my buddy Pete from the Creepy Little Book channel on YouTube. I've been a fan of this guy for quite a while and is an absolute treat to have him joining me this evening. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get him on and connect with him here in the Zoom room in just a minute. But first, today in history. On this day in 1940, a cartoon by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera debuted by MGM Studios. The name of this cartoon? Tom and Jerry, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, that debuted on this day in 1940. And that is today's Today in History. And of course, Tom and Jerry's a favorite to watch when we were kids, right? We always have those favorite things that we like to watch. That was, of course, a cartoon that I always enjoyed. And another thing I enjoy quite a bit is going on YouTube in my downtime and just listening to different shows from, paranormal topics and, different friends of mine. Well, one of my friends has a show he's been doing for quite a while. His name is Pete, and he does the channel on YouTube called Creepy Little Book, and he does a live show pretty much every night. Well, we've been lucky enough to have him join us tonight before his show, and it is both my honor and pleasure to welcome tonight my friend Pete from the Creepy Little Book channel on YouTube. We're going to go over here and connect with him here in the Zoom room and give us just a minute, and we'll be right back.
Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us, as I've said already, our friend Creepy Little Book Live. His name is Pete, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you here, Pete. How you doing, bud?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having. Really appreciate it. It's a really good time.
It's always a pleasure, man. You've got a great show over on YouTube. I've really enjoyed watching you for quite a while. You used to do short videos, and you've done live shows. You've done a little bit of everything. How long have you been on YouTube, bud?
It's going to be 7 years in September.
And tell us about your channel. Just tell us about the overall, what do you do?
Well, I delve into the esoteric and the extraterrestrial, the full range of the unexplained. I consider myself a master of mysteries and an antiquary of the arcane. But at the end of the day, I'm just a dilettante who finds all of these fascinating topics interesting and informational.
Well stated, my friend. So that pretty much sums up what we do over here. We cover everything from the esoteric to the extraterrestrial to the consciousness to all the mysteries of the supernatural and paranormal. So you are definitely in good company, my friend. You also used to do music, right? You're the second interview I've had on this show, and you also used to be a musician. Is that correct?
I was a musician mostly through my 20s and early 30s. I played with local punk rock bands on the East Coast here. It was a good time. I opened up for some pretty big acts. You know, we opened for the Misfits a couple times. We played with like Silverstein. So some bands like that, Casualties, you know, Defiance, larger punk bands, of course, from around the country. It was a good time. I mean, it was wild days. They were. But that's all in the past now. I don't really make music as much anymore, except for the hit song that I sometimes play on my show, Bedroom's Got a Drain.
I don't think I've heard that in a while. May have to play that again sometime soon.
Yes, I'll have to. It's a joke song I wrote with a couple friends one night, but I do happen to play it on my stream every once in a while. Yeah, my bedroom's got a drain.
You know, that reminds me of a waterbed in the 80s, right? Is that how
exactly?
If you guys can't see, of course, we're on radio, so there's no visual, but he's got a microphone here that is like classic Elvis 60s style old school mic. I really adore your microphone, man. Is this an original, like old school mic?
No, this one's about 20 years old. The originals go for quite a pretty penny. But this is the Shure SM58 Series 2, better known as the Elvis microphone. They do make several different models of this one. This one has the black foam screen inside.
Gotcha.
They do make one with a blue and one with a red, respectively. But I'm a fan of the classic, appearance. And I've had this one for so long. This was the one I used to use when I was in a band. I've just had it for years, so I love the damn thing.
I adore it. I absolutely adore it. I've got a Shure myself. It's a newer model, clearly. But they didn't come here to hear us talk about microphones. They come here to hear us talk about the paranormal. So how'd you go from doing music into a deep love for the esoteric and the paranormal?
Oh, I was always a weirdo. So I was a weirdo first. I just happened to be a weirdo that got involved in making music. I like to tell people that it was a combination of things. I think, first of all, I'm a product of 12 years of parochial schooling. So I'm haunted by all the angels and saints. Second off, my mom used to take me to the library as an activity as a kid once a week. So I was obsessed with books about the pulps and people like Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov. This led me into stuff like Adamski and UFOs. And it wasn't long before I was researching UFOs and the Bermuda Triangle and various aspects of the occult. As I got older, I started collecting a lot of the books that I used to rent from the library as a kid. And a lot of these are 70s and 80s books on witchcraft and the esoteric. One of the prides of my collection is actually the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft and Demonology, which is one of the first things I remember, delving into as an 11 or 12-year-old. Interested in the occult, and it probably all started with reruns of In Search Of and Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. I'm kind of dating myself with these kind of programs.
Not at all, man. They replayed these through the 80s and 90s. You remember they played them over and over, and I loved every last one of them you mentioned, from Arthur C. Clarke to Leonard Nimoy and In Search Of, and there were so many shows through the 90s, of course. Paranormal Borderline. You remember that one with Jonathan Frakes?
No, I remember Fact or Faked. That was the one he used to do where they do 3 real stories and 1 fake one. Yeah, I remember that one. He also did the Alien Autopsy, if I'm not mistaken, in like 95.
He did host that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, I grew up on a lot of this too. I actually found a book in the library when I was 12. And it had all the different, from Nessie to the Bermuda to the UFOs to the, the whole lineup. And I was hooked from that moment on. And I've always just dug really deep into it. Is there any specific paranormal topic? You spoke a lot about occult and a lot about religious and a lot of Catholic stuff there. And I love the fact your mommy's taking you to the library. That is really awesome. Anybody who's got parents, you want an activity to do with your kids, library. There you go. You cannot go wrong. It's a lost art reading. It really is. But is there any certain paranormal topic that you really like, prefer above any other? I noticed your picture, Spring Hill Jack. Is there something with that you know?
No, you know what? I was using Crystal Ball from G.I. Joe as a picture for a while there as an avatar. Spring Hill Jack, I like Phantom Attackers. I think they're fun. The Mad Gasser of Multoon, Spring Hill Jack, to some extent Jack the Ripper. These Phantom Attackers they can never really nail down.
Zodiac.
Zodiac. I remember Zodiac. There was a Weekly World News edition of the Zodiac Killer in the 80s. It was the Zodiac back, and it was just tabloid junk. Right. But I remember that image of the Zodiac with the bag on his head and the cross, the circle, and holding the gun, like vividly burned into my memory.
Right.
So those kind of eerie things. And I think there was a lot more emphasis on the mysteries and eeriness of the world throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It wasn't really all dispelled by the digital age at that point. You don't hear so much about the Bermuda Triangle anymore. But during the 70s and 80s, I mean, it was the height of the paranormal, the mysterious Bermuda Triangle. So these kind of things come in and out of vogue over the years. There was a big popularity of the Bigfoot during the 70s. Probably the heyday of Bigfoot was in the 70s.
Right.
And even with the occult, you see the occult is kind of cyclical. It's really big in the 1880s after, just after the Civil War. People are very into occultism and spiritualism. It's big again during the 1920s. People are big into spiritualism again. It happens again in the 1960s. And I think I see it happening again now in this digital era. You see, I follow a lot of these kind of hashtags on Instagram for Wicca and the occult and the esoteric. And you can see there's a lot of people that are into this. There's a lot of these digital witches out there who are learning the craft because of the internet.
Absolutely. I fully agree. I actually had studied Wiccan and the witchcraft and the natural magics and the multitude of different magics myself when I was younger. Now, there's a difference, and you brought this up last night on your show, I do believe. There's a difference in studying and practicing, right?
Absolutely. I consider myself a researcher. I kind of study these topics, but I'm not a practitioner. I own tarot cards for the purpose of collecting the artwork on them.
Right.
I like the deck.
Yeah, sure you do. You read the magazine for the articles, right?
What you guys can't see behind me is I do have several pieces of artwork from an artist named J. Augustus Knapp. And J. Augustus Knapp did artwork for the fantastic book Etadorfa, which has to do with a fantastic journey through the Hollow Earth. But he also did a tarot deck with Manly P. Hall back in the 1920s. This tarot deck was reissued again in the 1990s, and that reissue goes for a pretty penny. But they recently, the Philosophical Society out there in, I want to say San Fernando, California, where it could be located in Los Angeles. I could be mistaken. But anyway, Manly P. Hall founded a Philosophical Society out there in California, and their gift shop was selling a reproduction of this tarot deck that I simply had to have just because of the artwork.
Right.
So I do collect things like tarot, and I have an Ouija board because one of my viewers sent it to me for a Halloween stunt I did where I played with a Ouija board. My wife and I sat here and kind of manipulated it for the camera, and nothing happened. I didn't expect anything to happen,
Right.
I was very skeptical of the Ouija board. So I do have these things in my life. I have grimoires here, among the collections of books that I have. But like I said, I'm not about to go draw circles in my basement and invoke the archangels in some banishing ceremony to seek any results, or even chaos magic, which I read on kind of extensively, is not something I'm going to get involved in. That's a lot of like, you know,
a lot of ritualistic stuff.
Yeah, very loose ritualism,
right?
Compared to the high ceremonial magic of something like, say, Thelema. But you know, it's just not something I'm about to get into.
So you present a lot of different paranormal topics. And by the way, the point I was making with that last thing is I have studied a lot myself. I also am not a practitioner of these arts. So when you hear us present stuff, and as I made a point many, many times on the show before, just because I present information does not necessarily mean I believe everything that's being said. I'm presenting the research for everyone else, right? And
Absolutely.
That brings me to my next question. You also said something else last night I found interesting. I made notes last night during the show, if you couldn't tell. You said, I believe a certain amount of what I put out there, and I don't believe a certain amount of what I put out there, right?
Yeah, I generally put it like this, just for the sake of kind of summing it up. I don't believe in 85% of the stuff I'm talking about. That 15% I do believe in is absolutely bananas.
That's the stuff I want to dig into then. So the occult, the Jack the Ripper, that was always a crazy one to me too. Those mystery killers, those strange stories that never had a finalized answer, but all these different murders and deaths occurred around it.
Right.
And some of that takes a paranormal twist, right?
I've always felt that was the case. There's almost an otherworldly quality when you look at these kind of unsolved mysteries. I think of one I covered on my channel. It was the story of a woman who, her name escapes me. I want to say it was Dorothy May Flores, if I'm not mistaken. She was an average woman who was coming home one night from shopping and who was assaulted in her doorway and beaten. And in the commotion, the phone was knocked over. The operator heard what was going on, and they sent police around, and they found her concussed with a broken jawbone and laying in her doorway. Now, fortunately, her children had been staying with a neighbor at the time. 5 years would pass. And one night, while her husband, who was Philadelphia city comptroller, was out at a political ball, someone came into the house and carried her off into the night over his shoulder and down the street and away forever. And she was never seen again. There was a citywide manhunt and nothing ever came of it. And this was 65 years ago. And the rumor is that if you do talk about this online, that you get cease and desist orders from the family's lawyer. I have yet to receive any cease and desist from the family's lawyer yet, though. So I did make a video on the topic.
Well, let's hope that doesn't occur. This is just a story in a larger show, so hopefully they won't nail us for it. But the information, the passing of information, that's the important thing. Just getting it out there. The story itself, you know what I mean? You didn't name any names. You didn't put any specifics. So,
right, yeah. I think it's more attached to the urban legend of the story.
Right.
Because, like I said, this appearance happened 65 years ago. Who's still alive to
really, yeah.
I'm so concerned of the disappearance of this woman who was in her late 30s when it happened, So I have heard from other people who have covered this story that allegedly you get this contact where they're not mean about it or anything. They just kind of ask you to quietly not talk about the disappearance. But like I said, I made a video about it. I got away with it. It's cool. Don't worry.
Something else we do here a lot, at least on our channel, and we talk about a lot on the show, is the Mandela Effect. Because I actually am the founder of the International Mandela Effect Conference. I do a lot of work in that community. I'm the theory guy when it comes to Mandela effects. I've done a lot of interesting stuff in that. What do you believe in the Mandela Effect, just first, before we go any further?
I believe that something weird happened when they fired up the D-Wave quantum computer.
And you even come with a theory. I love it. Absolutely love it. So
that's
you mentioned one earlier tonight or last night. I mean, actually, in the show, you mentioned Cliff Notes, right? You remember the Cliff Notes from high school?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or was it Cliff's Notes?
For the life of me, I can't remember. Cliff or Cliffs or Crib,
That's an honest answer. That's an honest answer.
Yeah.
So Cliffs is what reality now says it is. Everybody and their brother always remembers Cliff Notes. So,
is he minor changes?
Yeah, it's a small one, and it's not one that I'm affected by because I really didn't use either version. So,
I don't think they exist anymore.
I'm sure there's a digital version thereof. Is there any certain Mandela effect that has affected you? Something you just like, no, that's not the way that used to be?
Not really. Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. My memory is very scattershot. I'll read about some ancient, story regarding reincarnation. Like I'll read about Dorothy Eady and her story of reincarnation and her life in Abydos in ancient Egypt. And I'll remember that committed to memory forever. Something happened 2 days ago. It's in and out.
Gone. That's an honest answer. That's something I appreciate right there. Just be honest. No, you know what? I really wouldn't know. I prefer that than somebody going, oh yeah. You know, I can't stand yes people. But anyway, the Abydos one, that's interesting. So you believe in reincarnation then?
I think that there are instances that are interesting when it comes to reincarnation.
There's been a lot of interesting stories, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of very interesting scenarios that have come up. There are people that have made some claims, and there has been some research that speaks to the idea of being possible. Now, I don't know really, like my personal opinion of life after death and reincarnation is kind of out there. So I don't really know where I stand on reincarnation. I think it's a comforting thought for a lot of people. And I can understand why people like to believe in the idea of reincarnation. I can see why the idea developed. I can even see evidence for it in some monotheistic religions. You know, if you want to take certain passages out of scripture in that context, you could definitely make the argument. But, you know, it's definitely interesting. It's a captivating idea and something well worth researching.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Research. Coming from two hardcore researchers right here. Take it from us. Make it worth your time and do the research yourselves. And don't take our words for anything. Do the research yourself by all means. I always tell people, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. I want to be wrong because that's how I learn. When you're wrong about something, you learn new stuff. When it comes to reincarnation, I'm always a borderline person. I think reincarnation is very much possible. My personal beliefs, I think we die, we go into another realm, if you will, in which we are greeted by everybody. And I don't think it's a heaven and hell scenario myself. This is my personal beliefs. Once again, I think it's more of a review of life, a new contract for a new round, and coming back. I think that's the best possibility because that doesn't negate God. You could still meet up with God, have your whole conversation, have the life review, lessons learned. But I just don't see us floating around on clouds all day with harps. That just seems a little boring to me. I could be wrong.
There is, and what you described is almost Swedenborgian in its kind of imagery. This idea of like the Summerland, where you do this life review before you are recycled back into the world to do it all over again. But I kind of think that Swedenborg was onto something. So if your listeners aren't familiar with Emmanuel Swedenborg, he founded the New Church. He was also somebody who predicted like a great fire when he was 400 miles away from it, the fire that threatened his home. And he became famous for this prediction throughout most of, I think he was from the Netherlands or Holland, if I'm not mistaken. One of those countries.
Sounds very Finnish, Swedish type.
Yeah, or he was in one of those countries when the fire happened. But his name was Emmanuel Swedenborg. He did found the new church, and their aspect of how they view the afterlife is very much like that. The Summerland, this place of review. I kind of thinking of it as like you wake up in the forest, and then people show up. I don't know. That's how else I could visualize it.
Well, there's also this idea of quantum immortality. Have you heard this concept?
No.
So based on the idea of many worlds and quantum jumping and that whole, slipping through realities, if you will, the idea is if you die, then consciously you just jump to the next closest reality that matches where you were. So your body here is dead, but spirit, you end up in another body, in another world, another reality, if you will. And you just carry on as if nothing had happened. You wouldn't know any different.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, a little bit.
Tough to wrap your head around, and that's the kind of thing with a lot of these concepts. I mean, some of them are so heady. It's really, it's understandable why religion developed to try to answer a lot of these questions.
Do you think religion got a lot of the answers right?
I guess it depends. If you look at how religion works, in some cases, there's an attempt to answer every question. In some cases, there's an attempt to address every plausible scenario or to address every piece of scripture down to the last, jot and tither.
Right.
And I can understand that. I can see why that happened. That's why you have these great church fathers. That's why you have, Augustine of Hippo and Ignatius of Loyola. That's why these guys exist. Because there were these great doctors of the church who were delving into the philosophy of the spirituality that was developing around Christianity. And it's an amazing thing to read. City of God. I have an abridged version of it because it's big. But City of God is an amazing read. Augustine of Hippo was a Manichaean who converted to Christianity in his 30s after he had a kid out of wedlock.
I'm sorry, he was a mannequin?
A Manichaean.
What exactly is a Manichaean? I'm sorry, I got to break that down a little bit.
They worshipped Mani, the prophet Mani.
Okay.
This was an ancient religion that rivaled Christianity up until the 4th century. So Manichaeanism. And he was one of these Manichaeists who lived a wild life up until his 30s when he converted to Christianity. And then he becomes one of the doctors of the church. Like his book, City of God, were his volumes. I think there's 9 or 13 volumes of City of God. It's rather long.
Oh, wow.
That's why I recommend an abridged version. Really delves into the history of Christianity as it was understood at that time period. He even mentions at length the pagan prophet Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great Hermes of Greco-Egyptian mythology. And he considers Hermes to be the great pagan prophet who foretold Christianity and the demise of Egyptian religion.
Wow. Now that's something else you've talked about a lot in your show is Hermes.
Yeah, Hermes Trismegistus. That's my man.
So is it fair to say that he is Thoth? Do you believe that he is Thoth in just different carnations, different names for the same guy across history and in the tablets? And tell us what you've learned in your research on that.
That's how the Greeks viewed it. So the Greeks and the Egyptians, their civilizations come together because of Alexander the Great. He conquers Egypt. And the Greeks don't really like the whole idea of their gods running around with animal heads on them. So they start to amalgamate. And they see in Hermes the same character that the Egyptians see in Thoth. This messenger of the gods, this god of writing, this god of wisdom. So they conflate the two into one. And they also did this with Serapis, who is a combination of Osiris and the Apis bull. And Serapis would later become the consort of Isis in Roman mythology. And they would build great serapeums to worship Serapis in. And Serapis looks like, guess who?
Thoth.
No, he looks like Jesus.
Jesus. Oh,
Serapis looks like Jesus.
Really?
Yeah. But Serapis, the serapeums are important because when the Library of Alexandria burned the first time, some of those works were taken and housed in the serapeum. So after the library was burned down to the ground forever, we can assume that maybe some of those works that were moved originally and kept in the Serapeum survived. Now, the Serapeum was eventually burned down by Christians, but we hope that some of it were burned down by the Christians wound up in the Vatican archives. So maybe those things exist somewhere in Rome to this day.
So they've just went under like the most heavy lock and key ever, but they may still physically exist, and we'll never actually get to see them.
Unless you know exactly what you're looking for and can translate the languages they are in, you're not getting in the Vatican archives to get at them. But that's how it works. They don't necessarily put out a catalog saying what they have.
Right.
But if you happen to guess that they have something, they might let you in to look at it depending on your credentials.
So you or I probably wouldn't be knocking at the door.
I don't think so. I looked into how to get an audience with the Pope, and you have to be like a head of state to do it. You can't just be a regular schlub.
Gotcha. And the Emerald Tablets, do you think Thoth did the Emerald Tablets then?
Well, there's the Emerald Tablets that were translated by the likes of Isaac Newton, which are very short, and there's the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, which are channeled information. And I don't necessarily take a lot of channeled information for what it's worth. I take it all with a grain of salt.
Here.
Channeling to me is as good as sitting there and kind of making up a story. But the work that was produced in this channel information of Thoth the Atlantean is compelling. And it does speak to the last days of Atlantis and Thoth rising up above the inundating waters, flying out to the land of Kem, to a land that was known as the place of the hairy barbarian, descending and then disembarking with the sons of Atlantis before they were accosted by the hairy barbarian and had to strike back with their magic science, immobilizing the barbarian. And then they bestowed their technology and wisdom upon the people of Kem before sending off these other sons of Atlantis to different corners of the world to do the same. So Atlantis is destroyed. Now, either Atlantis was an isolationist society that wasn't dealing with the rest of the world, or Atlantis was a global state that had colonies all over the place. But if we take this channeled information for what it is, it would appear that the colonies of Atlantis don't exist until after its destruction.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. I think
I'm
channeled
with
stuff
you on the channeled stuff myself. I'm not one of the biggest fans of channeled information. The tall white alien, for instance, I always thought that was quite hilarious. Just to name one, But we need to go ahead and take a network break right here. So you hang on, Pete, just a moment. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Ow! That's right. Your weekend has officially begun. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying the program so far? If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up the video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show will return again tomorrow night, Thursday, February 11th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with Darwin's Downfall, the Star Child. I'm curious as to exactly what that show is going to be about tomorrow night, Thursday, February 11th. Then I'll be back Friday, February 12th, with a look at get-rich-quick schemes. That's right. What works and what doesn't. So many ways to get rich quick. From the beginning of time till today, we're going to look at snake oil salesmen as well as the real deal and wise investments for getting rich quick in 2021. Then Saturday, February 13th, come along with me as we journey down the rabbit hole of ghost towns. We're going to look at some of the more predominant ones, as well as a few that are off of the beaten path. You really got to know about them to visit them. It's going to be a lot of fun. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Ghost Towns will happen Saturday, February 13th. I was talking to Nikki Rabbit about the number 13. And we know about the superstition of Friday the 13th, but there are several people in the world that suffer from triskaidekaphobia, which is the fear of the number 13. So those people are equally afraid of Saturday the 13th as they are Friday the 13th. Let me say, if you are one of those people and you have a fear of the number 13, please join us February 13th right here at the Ripon Rabbit Hole as we explore ghost towns together. Why not add two famous fears together, the fear of 13 and ghost towns as well, because one would have to assume if it's a ghost town, it's inhibited by ghosts. We'll find out Saturday night. Then we'll end out the weekend right together Sunday night with a look at anger. We'll twist and turn through the rabbit hole of ways of dealing with anger, how to identify it, and what can we learn from being angry people ourselves. Tune in Sunday night. We'll end out the weekend together right. We'll return tonight back to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show. You're listening to the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network.
Hello.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us for another round of crazy. That's right, it's been an amazingly wild and crazy conversation so far, and I look forward to carrying on the conversation with our buddy Pete from Creepy Little Book on YouTube. If you're just joining us, we've talked so far about all kinds of paranormal fun, and we're really kind of bouncing all over the place tonight, and it's just a couple paranormal researchers having a conversation for you guys, and I'm enjoying it immensely, if you cannot tell. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, before we reconnect in the Zoom room with Pete, I just want to make a couple notes here real quick. Make sure you go over to the riponrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. If you haven't already, ladies and gentlemen, hop on that mailing list. Make sure you know when we are talking about every weekend when we're going live. That's right, amongst other fun things over there. And if you care about free speech and want to express yourself in a way that's not going to be, stopped by the major big boys, then stop on by our riponrabbithole.com and drop down the rabbit hole where the conversation never ends. And I'm sure there will be a lot of conversation tonight because we've covered so many different topics and we're only getting started, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of just getting started, we need to go ahead and get the second half of the show started. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over here and connect back into the Zoom room. Give us just a second. We'll connect back with Pete in just a moment. And welcome back, Pete. I am so glad to have you back for the second half of the show. We've had a heck of a jumped around conversation in the first half, which is great because there's so much paranormal to talk about. And that's what we both are, as paranormal researchers that dig all the way into the deep, deep bottoms of the rabbit holes if we can. Speaking of rabbit holes, we were talking about Atlantis before the break. And one of my theories, not necessarily based on the Emerald Tablets per se, but just from everything I've learned and all the research I've done, my theory is that's the reason we have pyramids across the world. I think the Atlanteans were the original pyramid builders, and as things were starting to go the wrong way in Atlantis, I think they had to scatter to every corner of the earth. And when they did, I think that was one of their symbols was the pyramid for whatever reason, whether it be energy or a sign of this culture or there's so many theories, of course, but what do you think about that the Atlanteans could be the reason the pyramids are from Egypt to Antarctica?
I could 100% get behind that. And I've often postulated that theory myself. I think that it is very plausible that they were the initial pyramid builders, and that if they were to find Atlantis under the sea, they would find the ruins of the earliest pyramids on the planet. I think that this was also evident in the fact that the pyramids show up at the very beginning of Egyptian civilization, and then their civilization kind of deteriorates as time goes on. They're not making these massive pyramids as time goes on. They're making them kind of early. Imhotep is deified as the architect of the pyramids, and I think that it's very likely that Atlantis does have a connection to them. I think the Mesoamerican pyramids speak to this. I think the Chinese pyramids, the Bosnian pyramids, the Alaskan pyramids, the Antarctican pyramids, they all speak to this. So yeah, I think there's absolutely something to it. And I think the connection would be a great mother culture that existed at some point on this globe, whether it be Lemuria or Mu or Atlantis, or what was the one in India? Kumarkandam, I believe, in the Indian Ocean.
Kumarkandam, yeah, that's the one that's off the underneath the ocean right now, off the coast. Yeah,
absolutely. So it could have been any of these ancient civilizations where this originated, but we kind of use Atlantis as a catch-all for the term for whatever ancient civilization existed. It may not have been Atlantis as we think of it. There might have been something before that. For all we know, science tells us that humans have been on this planet for 200,000 years. Yet our recorded history only goes back 6,000 of that. 97% of human history is lost. What was going on? I find it hard to believe that it was just nomads wandering the earth, barely scraping by, trying to survive, living like cavemen for 190 something thousand years.
Right. And then all of a sudden, just snap, here we are. We're doing civilization now. We're doing something completely different.
Exactly. Like now we've got civilization. Göbekli Tepe speaks to civilization.
Dude, you just took my next example. I was going to say these same nomadic wanderers all of a sudden decided, hey, let's build Göbekli Tepe. We have no tools. They haven't invented the tools yet. It's years before they supposedly will invent the tools, but they built it anyway.
Yep, 13,000 years ago. Let's build it. Come on now. Come on.
We were nomads, just barely out of Cro-Magnon.
Yeah, I think that civilization has kind of risen and fallen several times. Who knows how advanced it got in the past? I mean, we could have already been where we are now. We could have surpassed it. Who knows if the Black Knight satellite was something we put up there 13,000 years ago.
Dude, that's exactly what I was about to say, Nate. All right, yeah. When you got two researchers who have done the same kind of research. I was going to say maybe the Black Knight satellite would speak to that idea. Maybe it's a civilization that got wiped out, and that's the only remnant we have, is that going in a polar orbit.
Yeah.
Intriguing. I was watching a guy named Woodward. I don't know if you've seen his channel, Woodward TV.
Oh, yeah, I'm a subscriber.
He was talking a little while back about, I guess a couple weeks ago, about if civilization were to end today and everything was to crumble back into the earth, and just go into ruins. And another civilization, a couple thousand years down, or even a couple hundred years down the line, comes along and starts researching what's left. at what point are they going to have accurate information? Because you've got what, 3 or 4 civilizations at this point built on top of each other. Look at the churches that have built on top of older, built on top of older. You know, are they going to dig down and say, oh, these people were this because that piece dated, you know, carbon dated to 2000? Everything here is in the year 2000, when actually it could be from 18, God knows when. You know.
Well, you got to figure you'd still have Hoover Dam.
Right.
Hoover Dam would stand for, 100,000 years or something like that. And Mount Rushmore. So who knows what they would make of those objects?
Right. Because, I mean, everything, we've lost paper pretty well at this point. It's done dissolved. All the real information, all the other information is online, and that's gone. So they're going to be kind of having to guess.
I mean, maybe some of it would be a real head scratcher, and you got to figure that was the case with ancient Egypt for a very long time as well. At least until the Rosetta Stone came along and they were able to decipher it. You know, they didn't know what to make, heads or tails of this Egyptian stuff.
Right, and it goes back to what you were saying. So we could be that civilization that's come along that's trying to figure out, when there's multiple layers there and we don't understand that there is multiple layers, we're putting everything in this time frame. When, I mean, evidence is becoming more and more clear that the scientism time frame that they fed us is hockey. To be nice about it.
Yeah, I mean, we are told an official story. And that is the case throughout most of our lives. You know, I think about some of the stuff that we're taught as children that they probably don't even teach anymore in schools, that has really gone the wayside. But, you know, at the end of the day was, you know, not necessarily true. Think of George Washington and the cherry tree.
Right. That was a total myth.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute myth, but it was something I was taught in school.
Me too.
And I don't think that's something they even broach the subject on anymore.
Really?
I wouldn't imagine they talk about that at all anymore. I mean, I don't imagine they're propagating that myth in schools anymore. That seems like a product of the Cold War and of American the idea of American exceptionalism.
Right. Selling a dream.
Yeah. Exactly.
So before we get too far off on a topic we don't need to touch, I must remember my place here. Let's go back again to the what we were speaking of about, you know, civilizations rising and falling. Do you think perhaps maybe we didn't exactly start on this world?
I love those kind of theories. I've been looking into something over the course of the last year that I've been developing for an Antarctica video that suggests something to that very effect. And the idea of panspermia and life coming to Earth from other worlds is obviously not new.
Right.
Or even novel anymore. You know, this is something that we take as a matter of fact in science fiction, for a lot of reasons. But I don't doubt it in a lot of ways. You know, we are the product of exploding stars. You know, nothing would be here if not for stars going supernova and ejecting their elements out into the universe, or at least that's what science tells us. So, you know, at the end of the day, whether or not we believe in one version of how we came to be here or another version of how creation came to come about, we know that stars produce the very elements that make up our world and make up our bodies, you know, so we are connected to the cosmos around us in a very intimate and unique way, especially if you get into the ideas concerning quantum mechanics and string theory. I think everything's kind of connected, you know. Use the force, Luke.
Use
you know
the force,
what I mean?
indeed. It brings us to the whole month of January I spent talking about consciousness and the mysteries of consciousness. Like the fact that you can feel somebody staring at the back of your head.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
things like that. If consciousness is in the brain, that shouldn't even be a possible thing, even with quantum physics. But it really brings into the conversation I'm losing my thought here. I need to hurry before the thought runs away. The connection of all of us. You brought everything's connected. We're all stardust. We're all part of the cosmos. We're all connected to a degree. Do you feel that every human on the planet has some kind of low-level ESP connection to each other, regardless of race, culture, color difference whatsoever?
Like the idea of a collective unconscious?
Yes, Jung's wonderful work. Yes, sir.
Maybe a collective unconscious, maybe a shared genetic memory to some extent. You know, it could be why we have instinctual fears that we all share. Heights, snakes, large birds, you know, these kind of things that would have been threats to us as predators in the ancient past.
Right.
These could have left some genetic imprint on us for that reason. You know, it's the reason why a cat tries to look like a snake when it wants to scare you. It puts its ears down and it makes its body long, and you know, it's a primal thing. So I don't know. I guess so. At the end of the day, it's possible, you know.
I'm like, you've got situations like you're thinking of your best friend, and then all of a sudden they call, or a person you ain't talked to in 20 years, and all of a sudden you hear from, you know, these little odd coincidences that seem just a little more than coincidence. Just these things that make you wonder, is there more of a connection there than
like serendipity?
Yes. All these serendipitous
absolutely.
Moments. Yes.
And I've had that occur in my life as well, you know, where you know, things just, the implausibility of all events leading to the direction they led to is flabbergasting in some regards, you know.
So with that thought in mind, do you think that there are certain events that could be, no matter what happens, you're going to end up in this spot, that are fated events, if you will?
I don't know if fate is something I ascribe to personally. I think that would involve some level of like predestination and negate free will. And I think we all do have free will, you know. So if you're predestined, then free will is an illusion.
You know, that is something that I've fought with in my head for a long time, and I still don't know what side of that fence I stand on, because of situations I've had in my own life where my free will was negated by reality itself, by fate. Literally, fate itself stopped me 5 times in a row from doing something I wanted to do. Every time something come up that stopped it, my free will was negated. The same thing I was trying to do. It went all, you know, 5 different things. One thing I wanted to do, 5 different times I tried it, 5 different ways, it was negated by reality itself, by circumstance itself. So, yeah, it's like that. Like it was clearly there was no free will to this. My free will was thwarted by circumstance every time. So at what point is predeterminism? At what point is free will? And could they work together? See, I have this theory, Pete. It's called time-locked events. So it is my theory that there are certain things that, regardless if you have a multiverse of many worlds or the one world, certain events have got to happen. 9/11 being a big example of this, a great example, because we all know it. And this can go all the way down to a personal level. If I hadn't have made this one decision that I thought was a free will decision, but that led me down this path, like when you get to a crossroads, all right, if I hadn't made this decision, led me down that path, there's no way I would have been at this moment right here to meet my wife, to get that job that I would have never got, to have that opportunity that would never have been offered to me before. That just those little moments in our life that almost seemed like destiny. We even say it sometimes. It was almost like it was meant to be. I call these time-locked events. These are really meant to be. Regardless of what free will path you choose in the middle, some way you're going to be guided into this event. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does to some degree, you know. it's probably the reason people marry someone that lives within 50 miles of them. It's probably the reason that, we see large scale events like, 9/11 act as these kind of points in time that would create almost like a gravity well, I think of, and it's like the way that a planet would displace a field of gravity, these events in time would displace the time continuum.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. These time locked events, these gravity wells, interesting way to put it. Landmarks would be a good way to put it. For a time travel, it'd be kind of like landmarks, these milestone moments, if you will. I don't know.
So I guess the moments in between we have free will. It's just these larger moments,
right,
are inevitable.
Right. That is my belief. Yes.
I could see that's kind of a combination of fate and free will. And maybe that's how it works.
Maybe it doesn't have to be a one or the other. Maybe it's literally both working together. And certain things have to happen, and other things, whether or not I spit on the ground right now is, that's not exactly something that's going to change the way the rest of my life works,
Right.
But when it comes to a big event like the wife or the job or the opportunity or the career or whatever these big things happen are, perhaps those are those time locked moments there. When it comes to paranormal, have you had any personal paranormal encounters? UFOs, ghosts, BEKs, black-eyed kids, whatever?
Not a one.
Not a one.
Not a one.
Oh, come on. Love the honesty.
The closest thing that I have to a paranormal encounter is I was interviewing a paranormal group of investigators, and they were located at a particular house in Pennsylvania where they did lots of psychic work out of. So, they would hold classes there. They would do mediumship there. It was, a very well-known Pennsylvania paranormal group. And I'd been put in touch with them for the purpose of doing this interview. They were good people, former police, former firefighters, very reputable people, two mediums. And during the course of the interview, I could have swore that I saw a child run up a staircase to my left, but there were no children in the building.
Huh.
So they explained to me that there were spirits of two children residing in the building because they had gone to do a house cleansing and these children were not ready to move over to the other side. So they brought their spirits with them back to their psychic house in Pennsylvania. And that these were not the only spirits they had the option to do that with. That in some cases, when a spirit was not ready to move on, they would convince the spirit to move back with them to their particular residence and remain there until they were ready to go. In this case, alleviating people's hauntings, but then bringing the haunting essentially home with them. Now, I don't know how much of it was power of suggestion or my desire to want to see something, or the actual fact that I might have seen something, but it's the closest thing I have to a paranormal story. So I don't know what I saw that day, but I feel like I saw something out of the corner of my eye.
I love it. The open-mindedness there. It's not, I know it was this, I know it was that. Interesting. Very interesting. I love the fact that you look at it from every angle. That is a true researcher's trait. Absolutely. Look at it from all sides, not an echo box and creating an echo chamber. And I'm going to believe this, and that only information I want is what supports my belief. I really appreciate you for that. And then, guys, this is definitely somebody you want to be checking out on YouTube. Creepy little book, I'm telling you. But that's interesting, man. It could go either way. Power suggestion. Do you think that builds or has a lot to do with the paranormal things like UFOs and ghost sightings, especially like ghost hunting, right? We see it a lot on, I'm not even going to get started with the TV shows. Yeah. But we see it a lot with ghost hunting, right? One person says something, then it kind of gets a group think going. Do you think power of suggestion really plays in a lot of paranormal stuff, or is it more of a small portion of case files?
I guess it really goes case by case. It depends on what you're dealing with. I mean, obviously, in some of these ghost encounters, we're dealing with real traumatic events in history. With others, it's a case of people not ready to move on. With some, it's malevolent entities, so there's such a variety of experiences that come along with it. I think it's impossible to just kind of pin down cause and effect or correlations that might have exist between the one or the other. I was saying this the other night. I often wonder if there's a connection between paranormal activity and the phases of the planets and the moon and such like that. And I asked this of that paranormal group I interviewed, but they didn't really have an answer for me. And nobody ever has an answer for me when I ask that question.
All right, guys, my research team out there, you know who you are. I've literally got a research team. I'm not even making that up.
Nice.
Guys, you heard the question right there. The phases of the moon and the planets and whatnot and paranormal activity, is there a correlation? Now, we know with the Mandela Effect, some of the theories we've been working actually has to do with a lot of this stuff, with the Schumann resonance, with the sun, with the solar activity. I would even dare say to the extent of the planets, but I've not got enough data to say that just yet. But research team, guys, what do you think? Let's do some research on that. Let's see if we can come together and find out. I like this. You've been asking this question for years. I want to see if we can get an answer here. That's a very intriguing question.
Nobody seems to know. I'd be curious to find out.
And that goes all the way down into harmonics and frequency and just the gravitational movement of things creating different frequencies in the solar system and
energy, frequency, vibration, all of it coming together.
That's what old Tesla said, right?
Exactly.
You want to understand the universe, you need frequency, vibration, and harmonics, right? Frequency, vibration, and 369.
Energy, frequency, and
vibration.
And vibration. I think that's what it was. I could be mistaken though. Like I said, my memory, anything 2 days or older, it's gone.
I find it funny. Like you said, you can pull up so much paranormal case file information in your head that even I'm blown away. I got to look up the case files to remind myself of them,
Well, thank you.
But other things, like you say, pay no lick of attention to. So that's why you're able to pull up that other information. I see. You cleared out the other rooms. I see how it is. I'm ashamed. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I'm ashamed. I used to remember phone numbers, everybody's phone number. I knew everyone's phone number. Now, you know what I remember? How to click their name.
Yep. Yeah, I used to remember dozens of phone numbers. Now we don't need to anymore. It's what's the point?
It's a shame, man. I am so ashamed of myself. I counted the other day. I know 3 phone numbers. That's it.
Yeah, sometimes I get my own wrong.
Right? Well, I mean, how often do you call yourself, though?
Yeah.
That's not something I practice, What's really crazy is my phone number and my work phone number are very close. So I get confused when I'm right in the middle of giving it. No, wait. I'm in another. Hold on. Back up.
That's how I get you.
Pete, I really appreciate you being here tonight, bud. It's been an amazing conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really been having a great time.
I've had a blast, my friend. Where do people find you? Let everybody know where the from the Patreon to the Facebook. Let everybody know where Pete's at.
Okay, so you can check me out predominantly on YouTube at the Creepy Little Book channel. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Gab and Minds. So I'm all over social media as well. But if you're going to follow me on Instagram or Gab or Twitter. Those are probably the 3 most active platforms I'm on. Definitely check me out on YouTube. I do a show every single night at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday and Sunday. I also bang out every holiday. So if you're looking for something to do, after Thanksgiving dinner or after Christmas or even on New Year's Day, I'm here. I stream every night.
And let me tell you guys, I cannot say enough. Go check this guy's stream out. I love watching it every night. I hang out over in the chat. The chat is amazing. The information's amazing. The topics are amazing. I can't brag enough about it. It's a show that I've watched for many years. Before we go, you used to do those little short videos. Are you going to be doing those again?
The thing with the short videos is they take so much time to produce that I've had a lot of trouble finding those hours since I have 2 kids now. So the bulk of those videos were made prior to me having the children. And a couple months ago, I tried to get back into it wholeheartedly where I was making those short videos again. And I was busting out 2 a week. Gotcha. And most people are completely unaware of that. So what happened is I was doing 60 hours of research to try and get 2 videos out a week. And they weren't getting the views. So I said to myself, am I going to keep breaking my back to try and get these videos done, or am I just going to live stream? So at some point I had to kind of let go of it. So I moved mainly more into live streaming now to some detriment, because a lot of people did prefer those shorter videos. I'd love to get back into producing the shorter videos. I really would. But there's got to be an audience for them for me to dedicate the time to it. So it's like, the sad thing is with the climate the way it is on some platforms, it's very difficult to maintain growth. It's very difficult in some cases to just have people discover your work because it's not being promoted. So in that regard, it has been kind of a slump, but I got to say, when it comes down to it, streaming is really what people are looking for lately. So
it's not a long stream. You do what, an hour stream a night?
Yeah, just 1 hour every night, just a quick hour. We bang out various topics. Like I said, we'll do everything from the biblical to the bizarre, the esoteric to the extraterrestrial. I love talking about UFOs. You can get me started going on UFO mythology, and I will not stop. We will talk about Truman Bethram and Aura Reigns. We will talk about David Huggins and Crescent, his alien lover. I mean, I will get all into that stuff. I love it. It really is the juiciest apple of the paranormal as far as I'm concerned. I love the aliens. I love them.
I got to have you back for a discussion on aliens sometime soon.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Excellent. Well, we would definitely have you back again soon. I would love to have you back on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete from the Creepy Little Book Live. Thank you so much for being here with us, Pete.
Thank you.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Pete from the Creepy Little Book channel on YouTube. Definitely go over and check that out. He's over there every single night, having a great time talking about the paranormal. He's an amazing researcher and just a show that I absolutely enjoy 100%, and I cannot recommend it enough, ladies and gentlemen. But what do you guys think? We've covered a lot of paranormal topics tonight, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the conversation of 2 paranormal researchers, although it was quite a bit across the board, kind of a weird-a-thon tonight, which is not a problem for me at all. I enjoy a weird-a-thon. What about you guys? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the paranormal, all we got to do is apply a little common sense, and you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right. That's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing, but don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right, we will be back tomorrow, Thursday, February 11th, 2021, with an all-new episode of the Dark Wolf's Den radio show. That's right. Tomorrow we will be discussing Darwin's downfall. That's right, what is that? That is actually the Star Child skull. There's been a lot of information since the finding of this artifact, and we're going to dig into how that affects scientism in the worst ways, which makes us very, very happy, of course. Then on Friday, February 12th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, the other animal of radio, Mr. AJ the Ripon Rabbit, will take to the airwaves with a Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. That's right. He'll be talking on Friday, I happen to know, about getting rich quick. That's right. There's a lot of get rich quick schemes out there. He'll probably not only give you advice to avoid those, but maybe find the loopholes in how to actually get rich quick. For those who invested in Bitcoin way back, yeah, you guys have already made it there, haven't you? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, then on Saturday, February 13th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, AJ comes back to the airwaves with Ghost Towns. I happen to live around a couple ghost towns up here, and let me tell you, they are quite creepy. Old abandoned places that used to be cities at one time and are most likely haunted. That's right. That's why they got their name, right? Ghost Town. Nobody there but the ghosts. I guess you'll have to find out on Saturday, February 13th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, then on Sunday, he's gonna round out the weekend right with a discussion on anger. This emotion can be both bad and good, and it's something that we do need to be careful of and how we express it, right? He'll be talking about all that and more on Sunday, February 14th, 2021. Is it really? I'll be darned, that's Valentine's Day. How do you like that, ladies and gentlemen? Anyway, speaking of Valentine's Day, one thing that I really love is to go over to the riponrabbithole.com, my favorite, absolute, all-time favorite hangout, of course. That is riponrabbithole.com. That's right. Over there, you want to sign up for the Backstage Pass. First things first, make sure once you've got your Backstage Pass, you are now able to get all the benefits of the site. The next thing you need to do is sign up for our newsletter. Do not forget to sign up for the newsletter. You'll find out every Wednesday all the topics we'll be talking about for the whole week. We send out one email. We don't do spam. We don't sell your information. We don't do anything crazy. We just send you one email one time each week with all the information that you're going to need. And you can share this with your friends, your family, your family's friends, or your friends' family. You never know who's going to be interested, right? Also, while you're over at the riponrabbithole.com, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you drop down the rabbit hole. That's right. That is our version of the social media over there, and it's definitely a lot of fun. It doesn't matter what time of day, there's always something going on the wall down the rabbit hole. That's right. Also, last but not least, do make sure that you check out our 24/7 Backstage Lounge. That's right. That's where I'm gonna be here in just a few minutes right after the show. If you want to come hang out with me, you are more than welcome to. We would love to have you back there, and just all kind of fun conversation from international guests around the world. We've got people from all over that come back and join us, and it's so much fun, and we would love to see you there. Speaking of around the world, ladies and gentlemen, for those that don't know, we are live on the radio in Ripon, Wisconsin. Shout out to everybody over in Ripon, Wisconsin, as well as 49 other countries across the world, and we are so glad to have every last one of you guys listening. So it doesn't matter what country you're in, what part of the world, we're glad to have you rabbits along for the ride. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and pleasure to do these shows for you guys every week. It has been an absolute pleasure to have Pete here with us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, February 11th, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, AJ the Ripon Rabbit, Walt House, everybody who has been involved with Ripon Common Sense Radio and with the making of this show, we thank you so very much. Also, shout out real quick to our mods over there in the YouTube chats. We're so glad to have you guys along for the ride. On behalf of all these folks, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And remember, until next time, stay awake, but dare to dream. That's right. Good night, everybody. How yeah!
I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown, and I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost.